Hey there, welcome to this week's Tech Tuesday webinar on ingesting data from internal source to C360 SaaS. I'm Brinda, your host for today's session. Today, we'll be joined by Dilip Yelagiri, Principal Customer Success Technologist who has been working in Informatica tools for 16 years as a presenter for this session. Before we start this webinar, let's go through some housekeeping tips. The webinar is for 1 hour that includes a 15 minutes Q&A. You can post your queries in the Q&A window. Dial-in participants are muted for the entire session. The session is being recorded and will be available in the Informatica Support YouTube channel and the Success portal, where you will also be able to download the slide deck. Please feel free to put in your feedbacks and suggestions for the session in the post-webinar survey. The Tech Tuesdays webinars are hosted within the Success portal, which is a micro-learning platform that offers free and unlimited learning to all registered users. This feature-rich platform was launched to help you learn and use Informatica products better. Here are a few important links that you can go over later that will help you in your product adoption journey with Informatica. Over to you, Dilip. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the intro, Brinda. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Tech Tuesday on ingesting data from internal sources to C360 SaaS. Today, we are going to learn some best practices around integrating the C360 SaaS application with your sources and target. This step is intended for architects, leads, and developers who want to understand what is involved in integrating C360 SaaS in your environment. Without any further ado, let's get started. Today, we are going to go over the following topics. C360 SaaS architecture. So that is the primary topic where we are going to do a quick refresher on what C360 SaaS architecture looks like. And then we are going to take a look at the data flow and services in SaaS. In this topic, we'll understand the various microservices that are available and which ones are critical for these integrations. As part of the sample use cases, we are going to understand the scenarios we will be taking a look at in our demo. And then the core part of the Tech Tuesday today, which is the demo. I'll give you a walkthrough of all the different use cases in action, and then finally we'll have some time set aside for the Q&A session to clarify any questions you guys have. As mentioned before, you are free to ask your questions all along the way, and our panelists and myself will try to answer them as we get to those topics. Here's the high-level picture of the C360 or the ILCS architecture diagram. In this picture, the top left corner area is all the components where the Informatica Cloud resides, and this handles all the microservices like the C360 multi-domain edition of MDM or the data integration services, the data quality services, application integration services, and so on. So all these services have a front end, and these services are rendered via a web browser front end, and there's a database that holds all the metadata for managing all these services, as well as a database that captures the data of the applications. Not all applications would require to retain data on the ILCS platform, but only certain applications require to store the data, and that particular data is always encrypted into 56-bit encryption. And there are a lot of other security features that are available for this entire platform. The complete list of certifications and security details are available on the Informatica portal. Next comes the larger cloud, where most of the sources and target systems are residing. This could be your AWS instances, your GCP instances, your Azure instances, or any other cloud services where the day-to-day activity applications are hosted. And then on the bottom is where is represented by your on-prem systems. And there are quite a lot of applications, databases, data warehouses that are residing on-prem within your organization. And these are behind your firewall. The end users are accessing all these applications via the web client. And this web client is basically making secure connections to the IRCS platform. And all the configurations and the job executions, as well as managing the microservices, is done via this web client from the users that are sitting inside your firewall. All the processing activity will be done on the secure agent, which is actually installed and managed within your on-prem server. So this way, in most of the cases, just the metadata is the information that is saved on Informatica's platform, whereas the runtime activity and the actual data resides within your firewall under your security policies. In certain applications like the C360, R360, or the multi-domain or supplier or other such applications where the data is needed to be maintained within the ISCS platform, you have the corresponding databases that are basically capturing the information and keeping it within the reach of these microservices for executing the corresponding activities. I hope this architecture gives you a decent first step to understand what we are looking at. Moving on, let's look at the data flow and services in SaaS. There are a lot of microservices and applications or chiclets that are available at your disposal in the IRCS platform. Here's a screenshot of an org and the services that are available for this specific user. This screen may look different for different users, and that is totally dependent on your access privileges as well as the licenses. To see the full list of services that are available, you can click on this Show All Services button, and then once you click on it, this particular screen refreshes to show all the available microservices or individual chiclets that are not available for you at this moment. If you need access, you can contact your administrator to grant access if you already own the licenses for them. But if you do not have the licenses, you can contact the account manager to obtain the appropriate licenses from Informatica. For today's session, we'll be primarily focusing on Customer 360, Business 360 Console, Data Integration Chiclet, the Application Integration Chiclet, Data Quality a little bit, and the Monitor. As part of the implementation, you may also need additional microservices like the reference 360 and the administration and other chiclets as well. Let me give you a brief overview of what each chiclet is and what do you do with the individual chiclets of these microservices. So let's start with the administrator. So administrator is the application where you set up your orgs, you create your user roles and privileges, you create your end users, and you set up your secure agents via the administrator console. You manage your licenses and all these regular administration stuff. The next important chiclet is the Business 360 console. So in this microservice, we will be basically managing all the assets that are relevant to your MDM SaaS application. It could be your data model, your business entities, creating your business entities, managing the definitions, and all such activities. So if you're from the on-prem world with where you have seen the MDM in an on-prem software, your Business 360 console is your hub console basically. This is where this is the equivalent of your hub console in the on-prem world. The next chiclet we can talk about is the data integration. So in this data integration, we usually create all the components that cater to your mappings, your mapping tasks, your task flows, which are basically similar to the software capabilities that are available in the Power Center in your on-prem world. The corresponding ingress and egress jobs will be defined in the B360 console that will trigger the task flows, which are like similar to the workflows in the Power Center world. And those tasks will trigger the actual jobs, and those jobs could be viewed in the monitor. So similar to the data integration, we have application integration. So application integration is the chiclet where we have all the assets that are related to basically integrating real time with your other applications. It could be Dun& Bradstreet, it could be your Salesforce.com or your connectivity to R360 and so on. The next important chiclet is the data quality one. So data quality chiclet will basically have all the assets where which define the data cleanse rules, your data standardization rules, rule specification engine, and other such assets that are helpful and that are critical to make sure that all the data that is coming into the SaaS is of really high quality and it gives you better quality of information. Some users or some implementations may have this R360 chiclet, and this is the application where you manage your reference data. You master your reference data, and you can use that reference data across all applications in your organization. Not every customer may have the R360 chiclet because this requires additional license, and there are a totally different set of use cases and business requirements that require implementation of your reference 360 domain. So first, coming to the topic at hand, let's start with the inbound data flows into C360 SaaS. The first way to get the data into C360 SaaS is via the data integration mappings. This is used for scenarios like flat files or databases or any such applications. These are your source mappings that will feed the C360 with initial data loads as well as the daily loads. And these are typically your ingress jobs. In the context of C360, these are typically referred to as your ingress jobs. The second way is to use the application integration. So this is the process that you follow when you have applications like your Dun& Bradstreet or your Salesforce Accelerator or your R360 to interact in real time when you are processing the data in a two-way communication across these applications. The third way is to use a flat file as a source in an ad hoc fashion. So this could be done using the application integration or the actual file import capabilities that are available in the C360 UI. This is not the most common one, which is used on a daily basis, but it can be achieved if needed. And this is an interactive process with the business users. Coming to the consumption side, we have the outbound data flows from the C360 SaaS, and these are basically accomplished in one of these two ways. The first way is to use the data integration, which is similar to the inbound flow. And in this extraction or the outbound flow, you are basically extracting the data from the C360 application and you are writing to your targets. And these targets could be flat files, it could be databases, it could be data lake or data warehouse or any such applications. And these are typically referred to as the egress jobs in the context of C360 SaaS. The second way is to do a ad hoc process where the end users use the export capabilities during various processes like the search operations, or it could be identifying individual business entities, and then exporting them into a flat file. So there are a few other scenarios where you could use it, and you are basically using the export capability of the C360 application. Now, let us take a look at a high-level overview of the sample use cases that we'll be discussing today. So first, I would like to demo the inbound processes, and then which is the ingress processes, and then we'll be taking a look at the egress scenarios. And as part of the inbound ingress processes, we'll be taking a look at flat file import. We'll be looking at how to import the data from a database application into your C360 SaaS application, and also we'll take a look at how to import data through a UI using a file upload capability. On the application integration side of things, there was actually an amazing Tech Tuesday webinar that was conducted by my colleague Kamal. This was done on March 8th, and I highly recommend for you guys to go take a look if you are planning on integrating with any Salesforce applications. On the outbound side, we are going to do the egress or the regular file extract or like a mapping that is extracting the data on a batch mode from C360 SaaS application into your outbound or consuming applications. And we'll also take a look at the export capabilities that are available from the C360 application. So this is done as an interactive process where the users have some ad hoc requirements to capture or export some small data sets from MDM. You could do that through this outbound processes. So without any further delay, let us jump into our demo. So in this particular demo, I have my org here. I have logged into my org. And this is my administrator page. So as I was showing you the screenshot of the login screen, so these are all the microservices that are available for any user who has access to the C360 SaaS application. So let me start with the administration. So in the administrator panel, so there are all these options that are available for the administrator. Quickly going over the licenses. You have all, depending on the licenses that you have bought, these are all the different types of connectors that are available for this particular org to connect. So it would be any of these would be used as a source or your target, right? So you can use any of these, and the most important one is the Business 360. So Business 360 is the actual connector that will connect to your C360 SaaS database, and it's called as the Business 360 connector. And there are so many other types of connectors that are available. Those can be your sources or your targets, where the data integration mapping can connect to while reading or writing the data. And quickly going over the users and the user groups. So you can create so many users in the system, and also the user groups and user roles. There are so many out-of-the-box user roles that are available by default when you have purchased the C360 SaaS, and depending on the type of activity the user is doing, you can basically configure how a user has to be licensed or authorized, and the permissions that they get. Talking about the secure agent, in this particular environment, I have one secure agent, but depending on the requirements, you can set up clusters of secure agents to generate the high availability kind of situation. In this particular org, I have basically created 3 different connections. I've created one flat file connection. I have one Oracle database connection and one connection to the Business 360, which is the C360 SaaS application. So these are the connections, and these are the basic things that you need to basically operate your C360 SaaS application. So now let's get to the Business 360 application. The moment you open the Business 360 microservice or the chiclet, this is the home landing page that you get. And this is equivalent to your hub console that we have discussed earlier on. And these are all the different activities that you could do. And there are many videos that are available for getting started for new users. So for this particular example, let us just go ahead and do exploration. These are all the different assets that are available in the Business 360. By default, the moment you get the org, you have these three folders. The Business 360 folder, which is kind of a common folder for all the assets that are going across your multi-domain MDM SaaS or Customer 360 SaaS or Supplier 360 SaaS or any of the common assets that are required. Customer 360, I mean, there are all these different processes and pages and options that are there in Business 360. In the Customer 360, you have all the critical assets that are required for your Customer 360 application. So you have your person entity, organization entity, your Customer 360 business application. There are different reports that are available out of the box and job definitions and such. The default folder is an important one because whenever you're creating new assets, you need to assign those assets to a project or a folder. If you don't do that, they will all be getting saved to this default folder. And all my custom activity, the work that I'm doing, I'm creating a folder project for myself. I could do, you could basically create different folders for different developers or different efforts or different releases so that you can control your projects. This Reference 360 is a project that is very specific to your Reference 360 implementation. So the first topic for this demo would be the ingress from a flat file to C360. So we have to create a brand new job called as an Ingress Job. So there are different kinds of jobs that are available from the Business 360. The very first one is the Ingress Job, where you are importing data from an external source system into Business 360. And for this demo today, I have actually created all of the required assets for us ahead of time to save our time. So this is a very basic Ingress job definition, and all you have to do is like select the extract, validate, and load data as a process, and select which source system this particular Ingress flow corresponds to. So in this example, I'm basically saying that this is a flat file coming from a CRM source system. This may or may not be exactly the same for your use cases because not every source system would give you a flat file. But for this example, I'm taking this as a flat file and I'm associating a task flow for this ingress mapping. And what does this task flow do? We'll take that into a deeper dive here. So the first one is the task flow, which is the flat file to C360. So that is the Ingress job, and in this Ingress job, I'm calling the task flow flat file to C360, and this particular asset is in the folder where I have developed here. So this is the data integration part of it, data integration microservice on the ISCS platform, and with all the actual task flows, mapping tasks, and all the data integration related assets will be stored and they are editable in the data integration microservice. I have actually opened the task flow that has the flat file to C360 job. So this is a very simple workflow where I'm basically creating a data task, and in this data task, I have a mapping task, and that mapping task basically calls upon this particular mapping, and this mapping is a pretty simple mapping where I'm reading data from a flat file source. So this is my organization import CSV. There is a flat file, and I'm running it through a simple expression, and cleanse activities are going on in this particular expression. And from that expression, I'm loading the data into the target. And in this case, the target is my business 360 connection, which is my customer 360 SaaS application. And the end business entity is the organization. And I've done all the field mapping in here. There are a few expression output ports where I'm converting the name into a specific pattern. I've done all the standardization, and I could do a lot of such activities in the expression. And once all the attributes are mapped, so this is my target where I'm mapping all the columns that are relevant for this particular source. So you can map all these attributes here, and once you have mapped the attributes, you define this mapping and you create a specific mapping task for it. And this mapping task is basically being called upon in a task flow as an executable component. And once you have created this particular task flow, you publish this task flow, and then you associate that task flow to the Ingress job. So this Ingress job is basically a job definition, which is defined in the Business 360 console. And this Ingress job is basically triggering the task flow. When I run this particular Ingress job, it will trigger the task flow, and then the task flow basically has the details about what it has to do when that particular job is done. And in this case, it is running a flat file to C360 SaaS. So I just ran this ahead of the call, and just to save some time. And these are all the different stages or different steps that are happening from a flat file extraction all the way to MDM. So in this case, there were 10 records in my source flat file, and all 10 records were processed successfully. I can even take a look at what was the information that I have at each and every step. Like in the extraction, how many records are processed, what are the different metrics available. Similarly, at the transform layer, at the load layer, I can basically check all the metrics at each and every step. And after the data is loaded into MDM, there is another job that gets automatically triggered, which is index for search. So this this job will basically enable all the indexes that will help you search for data in the UI. We'll get to the UI in just a bit, and then it will also generate the tokens if you would like to run the match and merge job right after this particular job. So all this is part of the single Ingress job, where you define your source and you define your target as your C360 SaaS. And if you compare this to your on-prem system, we are basically including the landing jobs, the staging jobs, and the load jobs, as well as the tokenization job as part of this entire as part of this individual Ingress job. All those activities are combined and taken care by the system at once. So this is how a flat file to C360 Ingress job is done. So now let's take a look at the second topic that we had on the demo, which is basically importing from a database. So let's take a look at another Ingress job where we are getting the data from a database. So let me explore the job definition for it. So so there are a lot of job definitions. So if there are a lot of assets that you need to go through, one easy way is to add a filter. and you can filter it by the type of asset, and then I would say show me all the job definitions and click outside. It will filter all the job definitions, and now it shows me the exact asset that I'm looking for. And in this case, we are basically getting the data from an Oracle database. And here, similar to the previous Ingress Job, I select the extract, validate, load data as a process. And in this case, I'm saying that this data that is coming from this database connection is Informatica Customer 360. This is, you have all the different source systems that are defined. You can select appropriate source system based on your particular situation. So in this case, I have a different task flow, and the name of the task flow is task flow underscore customer 360. And let's take a look at how that particular task flow is defined. So the task flow underscore customer 360 is pretty similar to the previous task flow, where I have one data task, and in this particular data task, it is calling a different mapping called as mapping task underscore customer 360. And this mapping task underscore customer 360 has actual mapping. And in this particular mapping, we have a similar thing. There is a source, expression, and a target. You can actually include as many transformations as you need, depending on the kind of use cases and the data standardization rules that you have. And you have all the different types of transformations available in this particular mapping. So for the sake of simplicity, I just made a really simple mapping. And in this case, my source is actually a Oracle database. So this is an Oracle database connection, which I've created in the admin console. And in this case, I'm reading the data from a database table called person underscore source. And I'm actually writing that data into my Business 360 connection, which is my C360 SaaS application. And I'm writing to the business entity person. So I have actually run this job as well. So if I want to monitor all the jobs, I can come to the monitor where I can see what is the status of each and every job. So this is the statistics or the run details of the previous mapping task, which is the flat file to C360. And here it is saying that there are 10 rows in the source file, and then all the 10 rows were processed successfully into your C360 organization entity. And then coming to the extract 360 mapping task, which is the database connection. The mapping task underscore customer 360. So this is the Oracle database from the source and writing it to your customer 360 application. And in this situation, I had 108 person records that were on the Oracle database, and all 108 records have been processed successfully. You can download the session log and get more details. If you want to see all the jobs that were run in the system, you could go to all jobs. If there are any active jobs, it will show, you can go to the running jobs and it will show any active jobs that are running right now. Or you could go to all jobs and see all the different jobs that were run in this particular environment. So coming back to this particular mapping task, this mapping task ran for 1 minute and 40 seconds to process 108 records from reading from the Oracle database and then writing to the C360 SaaS application. And when it did that, it not only just wrote into the SaaS application, as we were looking at it here, it would also, I can show you from here again. It would not only just do that, it would also ingress the data similar to the flat file. It would do the extraction, transform, load into the base object, and then it would run the index job as well as the generate the tokens for it. So it would do all those activities as part of the Ingress job. So these are the two different ways of getting the data into the system. The third way is the more interactive way. These two could be scheduled on a regular basis. You can have a batch process that are scheduled and that will periodically get the data in a delta mode from your source systems and load the data into your C360 application. The not so common way is to basically do a data import from a flat file or like a CSV file. And the use cases could be the business user want to do an ad hoc data file import into the system. So for that, I would like to showcase using the actual UI, which is the customer 360 screen. So this is the customer 360 screen for this particular user. By default, when you log in, you get to this particular dashboard. And you can have multiple dashboards depending on your roles. You could customize that. We would actually jump into the file import use case for this particular example. So the moment you click on file import, you have a different screen where it's asking you what file you want to import into the system. You do a browse, select the file that you want to process, and it is a CSV file, and it is giving me the preview of the first 10 rows, and all the default settings are available here. So once you take a look at the high level information of the file, you can click on next, and then it will ask you to map the fields of the source data to your target entity. So this is my entity data. So I would like to map this source file to the one of the business entities in the system. And then at this point, I can use the artificial intelligence capabilities, the clear capabilities of the SaaS, and identify that this data file is more appropriate for the person data and less applicable for the other domains. So at this point, the clear capabilities have automatically identified the column names and the data and then mapped that to the appropriate columns here. There are a few columns that I would need to do it because the names may not match and the clear is not able to confidently identify that system. So as a business user, I would have to do this particular extra step to make sure all these columns are mapped. But say after you have done the critical columns, you can select the map filter and see all the attributes that are mapped and validate if you have done exactly the right attributes. In this example, I don't want to map the education and tax related information. So I can remove the unnecessary columns that I don't want to process. And then I can, and if you are going to anticipate this particular file to come as a more frequent requirement, then you can even save this as a new mapping. In this case, I would say person flat file import, and I can save this mapping for future reusing. You can save up to 100 mappings as the business user, and it will also tell you how many mappings are already saved. So it's giving me the preview again, and then I can do the import. So if I want to know how the import job is running, I can simply click on this particular notification and it will take me to the my jobs, basically taking me to the exact specific job that is running right now. And I can refresh the data to see how the import is actually running. And it will also show me what are the different stages of the import and what have been done. So in my source system, in my source flat file, there were 5 input rows. All those 5 rows were transformed and loaded into the C360 application. And after the load is done, it has already done the indexes for searching, and also it is generating the tokens. So it has completed generating tokens as well. It has taken 39 seconds to process all of these stars. and it ran successfully processed one target asset and 5 records in each of those assets. I can similar to the monitor tab. I have the same kind of capabilities to see the metrics if I want to, and understand what's going on. If there were any errors, that error information would show up here. In this case, uh, there are no errors, no rejections or invalid data. If there are any errors, then it will create a flat file as in one of the target directives for you to go and troubleshoot. So this is another way of importing the data into the system. So just as an example, I wanted to show how a particular record can be opened. So just in this case, I have opened Anthony Davis, and I can see that some basic information about this particular person. If I wanted to, if I know which particular business entity that I'm searching for, say for example, I'm searching for an organization, and I'm not really sure what data set do I have here. So I could do a wildcard search. I think it's refreshing the data from the load job that we just ran. So it gives you all the data in a nice, easy to access search output, and it also gives you the data based on different facets. In this case, I have created 3 different facets, 4 different facets. One is on the city, country, state, and gender. I can use these facets and filter the data for easy filtering and easy user access here. So this is one way of getting the data into the system. So we have basically gone over the 3 different inbound processes. We have seen the flat file ingress process from flat file to C360. We have seen the database ingress from any kind of Oracle database into C360 SaaS. And then we have also seen the import of a flat file by the business user. So these are the 2 processes that can be established by a technical person and process them in a batch mode. But this is a import process that business user can do. So let's quickly check how the outbound or the egress jobs can be done in this C360 SaaS environment. So similar to the ingress, you also have another type of job called as egress. So egress is a job where you are extracting the data from Business 360 outside from Business 360 to an outside system. So the outside system could be a flat file, it could be any application, it could be any kind of a system that the administrator connections can be established to. So based on that licenses, you could create your mappings, and the data from C360 can be exported and written to any such application. So in this case, you are going to select the process called as export data from Business 360. And when you're exporting the data, there are 3 types of exports. You could do an export all, which means it creates a complete full dump of data from MDM to your target system. Or you could do a standard export. So this is an export that is done on a day-to-day basis, which identifies the deltas and creates the delta extract from MDM. Or you could do a custom export where you can specify a specific date and say any records that have changed from that specific date, it will create an extract out of it. And for it to know what task flow to trigger, we specify that particular task flow here. And then when the data is being extracted from MDM, from this SaaS system, you can tell what type of records are being extracted. Is it a master record or a cross-reference record? And if it is a master record, what sources do you want to include. You can pick and choose a specific source, or you can get the data from all the sources that are contributing to this master record. So I have already run this particular egress job, and let's go over let's actually first take a look at the task flow. Similar to the Ingress job, the task flow has the same kind of objects here, and then the data task basically points to your mapping task, and then mapping task gives you the details of the exact mapping. And in this case, I'm extracting the data of a person business entity. And because the person business entity has three different, many tables, but I'm extracting three different tables in this use case. I'm extracting the person data, I'm extracting the postal address, and the phone information of the person. And this is how we can extract it. You can include any kind of transformations like expression or cleanse or any kind of filters if you want to filter out very specific data set. And once you run this particular job, you the process basically creates three targets, and it will create three different files in your flat file location. So these are the three files that it created. And if you want to take a look at them, they are all CSV files that are being created. So this is the person CSV file, and I'm also including the PK root and the source PK and the business ID. So these are the system columns that will help identify and track and create that lineage from C360 SaaS to your downstream applications for future updates. So this is another way of extracting the data from C360 SaaS. The other simple way, like an ad hoc way, would be like similar to what we were looking at, right? So say I would like to do a search based on a specific country. I wanted to create extract of all the people who are living in United States. So in that kind of a situation, I do a search based on that search criteria, and I see that there are 1475 records that match this particular criteria. And then I can use this export all records, and then the system will create a CSV file as an export. And once the data is ready, you can basically open it up and see all those 1400 records in this particular extract. And all the basic information like the ID and the first name, last name, designation, gender, and address attributes are all included in this particular extract. So this is the other way of getting the data extracted out of MDM into a CSV file for business users. So now is the time for the Q&A.
Everyone, if you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A box. Over to you, Dilip.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. Please share any questions that you guys have on the topic. So just for the interest of time, I had to run the jobs ahead of time, but and the mappings were kept simple to explain the concepts, but the actual mappings could be as complex as any ETL mapping, right? So you can have data in a different format. It doesn't have to conform to your end data model structures. So you may need to normalize the data or join the data across different tables and across different objects. You may need to integrate that with any CDQ maplets or any standardization cleanse maplets. You could do all that in the Ingress jobs or in your mapping task. And once you have all that information in your Ingress job, you can process it, and then the data will be processed into your C360 application. And similarly, on the outbound, say if one of the application doesn't want a certain set of attributes, or if it wants only a smaller subset of data, you could also do that and filter the data from coming out of the Egress job. So the mapping is basically the mappings are very customizable and configurable. So depending on the kind of use case and the requirement, you can build those mappings for both Ingress and Egress capabilities. And that way, and for the first time, if you're doing a dump out of the system, you could do a standard export. But for consequent processes, you can just use a based on like a delta processing. You can enable that, and that will also help you guys.
Thank you, Dilip. I see one question from John. Is this being recorded? Yes, John. The sessions are being recorded and will be available in Informatica's support YouTube channel and the Success portal. You'll also be able to download the slide deck from the Success portal. Also, I would like to call out that we have a post-webinar survey right after the session. Please let us know your thoughts about the session, and if you have any suggestions for the future sessions, let us know. Over to you, Dilip.
Yeah, thanks, Vrinda. Yeah, as Vrinda mentioned, there are all the previous presentations are also shared. So, like if you are interested in connecting or integrating with Salesforce, there was a previous webinar that was done by one of the panelists, Kamal here. And there are many other topics that were already covered, so you can definitely refer back to any other older topics that you would like to know. We can wait for a minute for any more questions, otherwise we can hang up at that point.
Sure, Dilip. There is one question from Sinkaravelan. Can you please explain publish process?
Yeah, so the publish is basically referred to as a egress singer. So it is a egress job in the Business 360 console, and that egress job is calling upon a task flow in the data integration side of it, and then the task flow can do any kind of activity that you would like to process during the publish. Right now, as of this version, we do not have like automated trigger kind of an event where similar to the on-prem world, but that is definitely on the roadmap, and in the next few months there will be kind of message triggers and real-time triggers as well for the publishing. But with respect to more batch kind of a publish process, that's what we use the egress process or the egress jobs from the Business 360. At the moment, egress job is the only way to extract the data or see the data outside of the C360 SaaS platform. We do not basically provide access to the databases. So if you wanted to understand the match pair or analyze the matches, or if you wanted to send extract of the all the phone numbers of a particular person to your marketing team, or if you are trying to extract any specific information for a downstream application, all those publishing kind of use cases are met by the Egress Jobs.
Thank you, Dilip. It looks like we don't have. Please go ahead, Dilip.
Yeah, looks like that answers the question. Okay.
Yeah, looks like we don't have any questions coming in. I think we can wind this up. Thanks everyone for joining. Hope you will all put in your feedbacks in the post-webinar survey. Thanks for joining. Thank you, Dilip and Shaurya, for the presentation and engaging as panelists, Shaurya. See you on our next Tech Tuesdays. Bye.